Hi guys, my name is Joe and welcome to my YouTube channel, Fighting Words, the martial arts library. So, because of technical difficulties, I cannot upload the book review I was intending to upload. So, improvise and overcome, right? I'm going to be covering a dozen books that I think are really good for, I would say, just general martial arts practitioners. Just as an FYI, this has shrunk down from about 35 books. I will probably do more lists like this in the future. But for now, let's kick it off. So we have Chinese Martial Arts Training Manuals by Brian Kennedy and Elizabeth Guo, whose name I'm probably mispronouncing. My apologies. The reason this is important is that the first half or so of this book offers a lot of historical context, and it sort of myth busts things that, a lot of people take as truth because that's what we've been told. That's the story. That's the story we've heard since the first English language books were written. This is important because if you are interested in the truth, and we should be, this will let you know, for instance, where the Bodhidharma myth originated, as well as, where the Shaolin Wudang mountain, separation began. And the answer is little over 100 years ago. It's not that long ago. So that's the value here. Sticking with Chinese martial arts, Chin Na in Ground Fighting. I really like this book. It's by Al Arsenault and Joe Felice, I guess. I like this because it covers principles incredibly well, including, points on your body you can use as leverage against another human being. The different types of leverage, that's another thing. And I would say, perhaps most importantly, it gives sort of an anatomical view of what's going on in the body when you are applying a joint lock or a choke. There are many excellent books on sports submission grappling out there, but this aspect of it, the anatomy part, tends to be missing. Anyway, yes. This is how you want to break somebody's ankle. So that's really good. Conflict Communications by Rory Miller. This is not only a good book for martial artists, this is a good book for everyone. I would actually start a campaign to have this be required reading in middle school, and then also maybe again once you've entered college and you're a freshman there. This book is about exactly what it says. Communicating when you are in conflict with someone. This has very obvious, self-defense applications. If you can talk somebody out of hitting you, that's great. The best self-defense is to not be there. The second best self-defense is to talk the guy out of hurting you. Everybody gets caught up in sexy techniques the chin jab and hip throws and all that. But the goal in self-protection, self-defense, is to not need to use the physical side of it. And this book in particular does a really great job of covering the social and sociological side of it. So again, I wish this was required reading. You should pick this up. Similarly, in self-defense, The Fence, The Art of Protection by Geoff Thompson. The fence is an expression that Mr. Thompson uses to classify a physical and or verbal barrier between you and an aggressor in social style violence. I guess it could be used in asocial violence as well, but someone engages you socially and you're like, hey, back off. Okay, this thing I'm doing with my hands is my fence. right? The book was invaluable for me. You know, I didn't grow up in a violent environment. So, you know, I love martial arts, I love combat sports, but I was like, okay, so if someone's getting ready to attack me, how do I know, number one? And number two, when do I start fighting? This book gave me the answers I needed, because Mr. Thompson outlines like, okay, we're going to use the fence as a base, you know, and if somebody does this while you have your fence up, the fight has started. You know, even if they're not shoving you or punching you or anything like that, the fight started, and you need to hit them with a preemptive attack after you have made clear to any available witnesses that you're not looking for a fight. And he also provides variations of the fence and also preemptive strikes to throw off of the fence. Again, excellent book if you are interested at all in personal protection. Get this. Contemporary knife targeting. I've actually got an outline. Have I recorded it? Yes. I've recorded the review of this, so it'll be up in the next month or so. This is important for self-defense, especially if you are the one who carries a blade. But it also works just as well if you get attacked with a blade. This lets you know, based on actual medical information, what effects you are likely to suffer caused by wounds in various areas. You know, like if I get slashed here, how long is it going to take me to pass out? You know, how long is it going to take me to go into shock? We have numbers for that, you know, thanks to this book. And the latter half of this book is how to use that knowledge in a self-protection mindset. You know, you'll see here he uses his blade to attack his attacker's thigh with the idea of, okay, we can immobilize the guy. You know, so I love it because it's scientific. Like I said, they went to a medical examiner, somebody who went to school for this. It's like, okay, so what happened? How long is it going to take you to bleed out from a cut here? Okay, how about a cut here? What is getting stabbed in the kidney going to do to you? How about the liver? So I love the fact that there's science behind it, and further, you get very simple but very easy to pick up on, you know, tactics for using a knife in your own defense. JiuJitsu University by Saulo Ribeiro. This, even if you do not practice Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or any ground grappling art, if you want to know how to defend yourself and how to escape, you know, various ground positions, that's basically what the first two chapters of this are, is learning how to protect yourself. So, you know, this is based on good body mechanics and not some wild shot in the dark of like, I'll just poke him in the eye. Yeah, what if you can't get to his eye? What if he just pinches it closed and he doesn't care? You know? Don't rely on pain-reliant things. Rely on things that work on leverage. So the techniques found herein. And of course, if you do practice Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you know, beyond those, you have chapters on, you know, the guard and guard passing and submissions. And Mr. Ribeiro is incredibly technical. You know, I still have some of his earliest videos that were put out by World Martial Arts, and I call them in a complimentary way lazy jiu-jitsu. By lazy, I mean extremely effective. So he takes that same mindset when he's writing this book. The downside is I think a copy of that book is going to be about $100 these days, maybe more. Ultimate Conditioning for Martial Arts by Lauren Landau. This, if you are doing martial arts and you want to be fit for the activity of martial arts, you know, this is an invaluable book. I think especially if we come from traditional martial arts, there are a lot of practices that we do because, well, Sensei told me to do this, Sifu told me to do this. They may be comfortable but they also may not be scientific. This is scientific, and it's got things from dynamic warm-ups, which are great, gets the blood flowing, exercises for base conditioning, aerobic and anaerobic activity, specific chapters on exercises for kicking and striking, and specific chapters on wrestling and grappling, plus another one on speed and agility, another one on nutrition, and then different programs for different arts. So you can actually program in a conditioning routine based on this. And it includes if you do both striking and grappling, it includes a section on that. So this is excellent, and if you care at all about your fitness as a martial artist, this should be in your library. The Principles of Unarmed Combat by Mark Jacobs. This is a textbook. This is a textbook, and it's an excellent textbook. It covers exactly what it says on the top. Like, you know, it's got a long section on break falls and suplex and the C motion of the hips and, you know, severity of effect and corollary to the fundamental principle, SARF target. I mean, the physical side of martial arts is covered here. Striking, grappling, target selection. He's got in the back of the book other sections on, let's see, yeah, miscellaneous topics. Stand-up fighting versus ground fighting, aggressive versus defense, dealing with southpaws, barriers as an impediment, barriers as an aid. Every martial artist should have this in their library, period. You know? It'll get you in depth on the things that you practice. It will educate you on the things that you don't. And it covers so many other aspects. Get it. Indonesian Fighting Fundamentals by Bob Orlando. This is written from the perspective of someone who practices Silat and Kuntao. Excuse me. I think he actually throws in a little American Kempo in there. What this does is gives principles of body motion, and he defines them in terms like gyroscopic rotation, or a shearing effect, or adhesion. And you may have heard of all these terms. This gives an in-depth understanding of it. Like, each term gets a pretty hefty chapter, you know. As in addition, if you are interested in specifically the Filipino martial arts, we do get other, you know, specific aspects of like Kuntao. It's really good. It's good in general, and then for like specific as an intro to Indonesian martial arts, it's really good. Okay, now I'm going to give you two books. Tao Jeet Kune Do. I think most serious martial artists probably have a copy of that. And then this is from the Bruce Lee Library, edited by John Little. Volume 3, Jeet Kune Do, Bruce Lee's Commentaries on the Martial Way. So these were both collections of Bruce Lee's notes. That's why I pair them together. To me, this is a continuation of this as far as I'm concerned. For those unfamiliar, I would not say that these books are meant to be studied. Well, reverse that. They're not meant to be read so much as studied. And by that I mean, you know, what we have is, you know, long-range techniques. Okay, here's a classification of long-range techniques. And then later on, get pointers on the cross, left cross, pointers on delivering the cross, lessons from boxing and fencing. You know, it's because it's his notes, it's not done in like the normal narrative or instructional structure of a book. So for me, it's been valuable to go through, read several notes at the time, and then just sort of ruminate on them a bit. And again, if you study martial arts, personally for me, the Tao of Jeet Kune Do really opened my eyes to different philosophies. And see, my copy's a little beat up. I've had it for a while. Since the 90s. Anyway, I think these are examples of another principle-based book or books. And of course, principles can be applied to anything. And finally, Anatomy of a Street Fight by Paul Vunak. This is physically like both a modern and also quick and dirty tactic book for self-defense. He has a strategy that he outlines here. I think it pairs well actually with The Fence by Geoff Thompson, where he talks about preemptive striking. If you cannot preemptively strike, or even if you can, that flows into Vunak's is it PFS, Personal Fighting System? I can't remember. RAT? Yeah, RAT. Rapid Assault Tactics. So contact is made with the enemy. He prefers to go for weapons destruction, like catching the punch on the elbow so that you might break the guy's hand. And then he moves in to clinch and finish the opponent off with knees, elbows, and headbutts, what he considers the heavy artillery. So, and this book also covers other aspects like, knife fighting. Here's a chapter on HIV considerations, which you don't see in a whole lot of books. But yeah, knife fighting, ground fighting, police use of force. So many things get covered in here. It's very compact. And once again, if you are interested in self-defense, I think it does a really good job of giving you an outline of how to approach a violent encounter once violence kicks off. So again, I'd pair this with The Fence, and I guess conflict communications. Those two things are trying to prevent violence from happening. The Fence also gives you an indication of, okay, violence is happening now, and if your preemptive strike does not end the conflict, either by knocking the guy stupid or giving you an opening to leave, then the rapid assault tactics found in Anatomy of a Street Fight gives you follow-up tactics. So anyway, those books, I guess I kind of heavily leaned it towards self-defense and then like general principles. But that's exactly why I think all martial artists should be reading these books. Like I said, I got a rejected stack over on this side because there are a lot of books that I feel very strongly about. Like, this thing is very good about that. And, this thing has something that everybody should see if they practice this certain thing. And, I don't know. I'll probably get to some of the others later. But anyway, that's going to be all for this week. This is very impromptu. I hope to have a better setup next week. Those are my suggestions. What do you think about them? Or is there a particular book that I left out that you would include? I'm very interested in hearing that because I'd love to expand my library or talk about the specific books that are out there. And anyway, that's all I got for now. So, guess I'll